welcome to this edition of Business Supes, where we talk to successful business owners and learn a little bit about them, their business, and their business superpower. So I am joined today by Jared McClure from Green Valley Nursery. Jared, welcome and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your business, kind of what's your origin story?
Okay. Well, the business was started by my dad and my granddad in 1977 as Green Valley Nursery. It was started north of Claremore, where we still currently have our tree farm. We no longer operate our retail garden center business out of that location, but we still operate our wholesale operations for growing out of there. They started as a tree farm, did that through 2000. Of course, I grew up in the business from 12-year-old on, and helping my dad and learning the business. When I got out of high school, decided I wanted to go to college and do something different than the family business. So I went to college for environmental biology, at which time my dad, he closed the business down and took a position as managing a large wholesale nursery for about 10 years. And after I got out of college, I went right back to the business, went to work for him at that location as a sales rep, gained a lot of knowledge, did that for 4 to 5 years. And then just that itch to own your own business got to itching again on me. And so I approached my dad. I said, hey, what do you think about starting the family business back up again? And he was getting tired of the corporate side of things. So we left our jobs and we moved to our location in Verdigris, which was just a field, nothing there. And there was actually snow and ice on when we went out there. And we looked at each other and we thought, man, are we crazy or what's going on? But so my dad and we brought my aunt on. My grandpa was no longer with us, but we brought my aunt on. So it was a family business and started back up. That was about 15 years ago. And so now we have our location in Verdigris there. And so I've been doing this going on 30 years. I'm sorry. Close to 30 years. So I started when I was 12, I'm 42. So yeah. So 30 years I've been doing this.
Okay, wow, that's fantastic. So you said that you had that itch to own your own business. So what is the draw of being a business owner versus being an employee to you?
Well, okay, so that's something a lot of people, unless you've owned your own business, it's really hard for people to understand. But for me, it's definitely not the glamour, and it's definitely not the free time. But I would say it's self-destiny to a certain extent. You have more control over what happens. I mean, within reason, not that I don't have days where I'd much rather clock in and clock out, go home and forget about it. But for the most part, I like to control over my own destiny, good or bad, that you have by having a small business. Your success or your failures a lot of times depend on your actions and your abilities. And I appreciate that fact of it.
Yeah, that's awesome, because I hear that a lot from business owners, that it's, the word I hear them use is freedom, right? The freedom to be able to live the life that they want and have the life that they want.
Right.
Talking to a guy once, and I said, what have you been up to? He said, I'm enjoying all the free time that you don't get when you own a business.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And I have kids, and my daughter's a senior this year, and basketball tournaments and things. What you find is, if you look at the days that you take off as a business owner, generally it's not even equivocal to the amount of vacation time that most people get through another business, but the flexibility is there. And if I need to go watch her do something, things that you can't get back, time you can't get back, then you make it happen. You can always twist things around. Whether you do it or not is your own decision, but you can always manipulate your time to be able to do what you need to do if it really means enough to you. So, and I like that ability. So.
Yep. Very cool. So do you all have, how many employees do you all have?
We currently have, I believe, 12. Yeah. Full time. Okay. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. 12 full-time employees. Yeah. So
I would say actually 11 full-time, one part-time. So.
Okay. So then as far as the business itself goes, um, specifically, are you wholesaling? Do you sell to the public? I mean, how do
We
you
are
how
our
does your
pro-
business work? I guess what are the nuts and
our
bolts?
okay. So we have a nursery and garden center. We have a tree farm where we grow our own trees. We also have a landscape side of it. And then we've also recently developed a soil side of it for potting soils and organic soils and things like that. So it primarily our target market's retail. We do sell to some local wholesalers, but it's hard for us to compete in that market. Um, the competition around here has got really deep pockets when it comes to wholesale, and it's a requirement. Because you've got to stock
Mhm.
enormous amounts of inventory to be competitive. Because you have to buy it at a set rate. You have to buy large amounts at a time. So we found that we do sell wholesale to local guys who don't want to go into the Tulsa area market, drive that far. It's hard for us to be competitive pricing that way, but we do it now. But our target market is retail by far, and we're able to be pretty competitive retail on certain things. And certain things we're like trees, we grow them ourselves, so we're able to be very competitive. Because even the large nurseries are buying third person, at least second person, and so we are able to be more than competitive on that area. So.
Okay, very cool. So, in addition to being competitive on your pricing, what would you say sets you guys apart from the competition out there?
I would say our expertise. That's something. Okay, so my dad has about 45 years experience. Mark, which is our yard guy that out there that kind of runs the operations outside, he's got 45 to 48 years experience in the industry. I've got 30. Jennifer's got mid to upper 20s. Our lead landscape guy has 30 years experience. Our second landscape guy has 25 to 30 years experience. We have nobody that has less than 2 years experience on the payroll. We average anywhere from 15 to 20 years. So I would say that would be our the expertise we're able to give people. And having been in the both sides of it, the installer and also in the nursery industry, we can give expertise as to what really works here. Because people come in and they try to glean a bunch of information online, and they have minimal effectiveness by doing that. Just because something is sold here, a product sold here, doesn't mean that it's for Oklahoma. And if the past 3
Right.
years have taught us anything, it's that Oklahoma's weather is very unpredictable. And so I think that would be our draw, would be the expertise we offer people.
Okay, very cool. So you said your dad's been doing this for a while. Are there plans of him transitioning out and you kind of taking over the whole thing, or is
There,
he going to
there,
just
there
keep on
are.
keeping on?
No, there's a light now. He wants, he's at that point in life where he wants out. And we do have plans in place for that. Currently he and I are split partners in the business. My aunt, we bought her out going on probably 8 years ago. So he and I are split partners in it. We do have transition plans in place though. Yeah. And they should be, everything going as planned should be implemented pretty quick. So.
Okay, very cool. So, I've heard it said that a business can only grow to the level of the business owner. So, what are maybe some things that you do to sharpen your saw, or some things, maybe some habits or routines that you use to make sure that you stay sharp and are able to continue to push the business forward?
We're always, me personally, and I think I'm relatively ambitious as far as constantly changing. I don't like stagnant living as far as that's concerned. I don't like the business to be stagnant. I don't like for things not to be progressing. So we're constantly looking for other target markets, different product offerings, trying to get enough versatility there that we can ebb and flow with all of the changing markets. Because if you put all your eggs in one basket, you're setting yourself up for failure. And I've seen it. I've been doing this since I was young, and I've seen it happen too much. So I would say that probably our biggest positive that I could say, as far as me personally, is that I'm always looking for the next thing. I'm always looking, and you can't be afraid to fail when it comes to that, because every idea you have is not going to be the next big thing. But
Right.
I don't let it get me down. I stay positive about it, and I learn from it, and I move on. Try not to make the same mistakes over and over again. So
Good. Yeah. Yeah. If you make a mistake once and then you learn from it, it's an opportunity, right?
correct.
So very good. Um, kind of sticking with that, what's the outlook for 2023?
I would say it's good. Certain sectors of our business, like I say, basically we have three sectors. We have the landscaping side, which is predominantly residential installations, new housing. We don't target builders, to be honest with you. We have a few builders. I'm not going to shout out anybody because I don't want to, but we do have a few builders we work for, a few that we have great relationships with, and those are new housing. Our target market mainly is residential, personal individuals, retrofitting, upgrades, things like that. That market, the housing market is, there's no secret that the interest rates have hurt the new home builds a little bit.
Right.
It's also hurting people's, what we do in the landscape side is not a necessity. It's something that people don't necessarily have to have. So I would anticipate that market will slow somewhat. That also happens to be our lowest margin market. Honestly, there's a lot of manpower involved in it, a lot of gasoline, a lot of trucks, equipment. I would say that that's going to slow, but that isn't going to hurt our margins as much as our overall sales, which, as you know, margins are what are important. It's not your big number at the end of the year.
Right.
Secondary, our nursery industry, our actual garden center that we have, I think it'll be pretty good. It's not going to be COVID. COVID was ridiculous. The garden centers were overrun with people. People were at home. They were bored. They were fixing their yards up. They were gardening. So I think the garden center is going to be nice and steady. I don't think it'll be quite what it was last year. I would anticipate a little less, again, residual income for people to spend on things like that. But I think it'll be pretty steady. We've offset our shrubs and tree sales with gardening items, which seems to be a big thing. Vegetables, gardening accessories that they need, soils and things. And that goes to our third side of business, which has been a very blossoming side of our business, is the soil. We manufacture custom blended gardening soils. We have branded potting soils. We do our own potting soils. We have our own bagging machine. We're working on our branding. We're looking at getting in stores. We've been direct selling, and that's worked out very well. But now we're exploring the e-commerce side and starting to try to get in with some retailers so that we can build that up. And so I think that is going to really bloom this year. So my intentions are for that to more than offset any losses in the other side. So I think it's going to be a good year. I really do, based off what I'm seeing so far.
That's fantastic. And it's great to hear that you have multiple revenue streams coming into the business, because, so often business owners will kind of lock in on one thing and they won't, they kind of get stuck with the forest for the trees type of a viewpoint. So, all right. So here comes the question everybody's been waiting for. What is your business superpower?
I feel like I'm a people person. I can talk to people, and I think people realize that I try to be genuine as possible, without being and again, nothing against car salesmen, but without being the car salesman mentality. I talk to people, and I feel like that relates, and people, and my dad's the same way. I typically, and the way our business is split up, I run a lot of the bidding side of things that require any bidding or hand holding type. He runs the nursery operations. We're both tempered the same way. We're both people that are we're people, and I think people appreciate that. Somebody that they can talk to as things progress. I realize that every time I call in on insurance or anything, and you get on an automated screen, you can't talk to anybody. We try not to operate our business that way. We try to be personable, and I try to be personable, and I think that goes a long way towards helping people. And then that can be a negative as well. But I think that would be my biggest asset. That, and then I feel as though I value my employees. We have people that stick with us. We don't have the turnaround other companies do. And I'd like to say it's because of the pay, but I don't, we have a top out in our business and we just can't do that. But we try to take care of our people. And I feel like, so I feel like that's a strong point as well.
That's awesome. Yeah. So a couple of things there. So, people buy from people they know, like, and trust.
Right.
So being able to have that rapport is huge. And then on the employee side of things, it's really interesting you say that, because I've always heard it said that people don't quit a job, they quit a manager, they quit a leader. And
I'd
the number one
absolutely,
reason people leave is because of their first level supervisor. So it sounds like you've
absolutely.
got a pretty strong culture.
We try, you know, it's a hard thing sometimes, but we try to keep it that way. Yeah.
Very cool. So last question for you here. If you were going to give a little nugget to other business owners, just a piece of advice, what would it be?
Don't outgrow yourself. That would be my nugget of advice. When I first started the business, I was younger and ambitious, very ambitious. And I tried to outgrow myself, and I still have to catch myself sometimes. Do what you do and do it very well. I would rather be very good at just a few things than okay at a lot. And that's what I would say. Concentrate on your strengths, and try not to overgrow yourself. I've seen it too many times in our industry in particular. You know, they take on large commercial accounts. You stretch yourself thin, and something's got to give. Either your margins are going to go down, your cash flow is going to get to where you can't manage it, or your quality is going to go down, or all of the above. So just stay with your strengths, and then as you you get to the ability to do it and you get really good at something, then start venturing into other things. And just be careful about, and don't be afraid to try. I mean, try it on a micro level though. That's what we're doing with our e-commerce right now. We're kind of old school, and now that we have products that we can actually ship, i.e. the packaged garden soils and things, we're venturing into e-commerce. And that's a good lesson for me myself is baby steps. Don't jump into this too fast, and see where it's going to go, and then go from there. So that'd be my advice to anybody that looks at starting their own business. So
that's some great advice. Yeah, we call it testing and measuring, right?
right.
So you got to look at it as an investment, because if I give you if you give me $1,000 and I give you $5,000 back, that's an investment. If you give me $1,000 and I give you 250 back, then that's an expense. So
That's
I
right.
love hearing that y'all are doing that. That's fantastic. So, well, thanks so much for taking some time to
Absolutely.
join us today. It's been a real pleasure.
Well, I appreciate what you guys are doing, and I'm honored that you had the desire to talk to me, and I appreciate the time. I really do. I wish I had, when I was starting my business, I wish I had references like this to kind of reference instead of learning the hard way. It would have been nice, but hindsight's 2020, so.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. It's good to meet you.